All right.
All right. Introduce yourself, B.
I'm B. LeGrand, CEO and founder of EdiblesList.com and Edibles Magazine. We've got manufacturing and distribution licenses in Los Angeles as well. And the mission was always to find healthy edibles. The joke is I'm still looking for them. And our mission's always been to get the medicine in the hands of the patients that need it, but also to educate and to change people's minds about cannabis.
And what's your history with cannabis? When did you start using cannabis?
So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and in Hawaii we call it pakalolo, and I started smoking it when I was 13 years old. It was a very normal thing, and it wasn't stigmatized there in that place, and it was always something we used as teenagers as an escape, and it wasn't taboo with certain adults, so it was just something I embraced. And I didn't really have a lot of money in college, so I didn't spend much on it, but it came around in college. And then I got my medical card in 2004, 2 years after college, and I was one of the first to go get those, $150 doctor recommendations in San Francisco, and then they had the dispensary next door. And when I showed up to the doctor's office, they're like, "Oh wow, you actually brought medical records."
I remember those days.
Yeah.
And the industry in the past few years, how has it been?
Well, I guess it's been a roller coaster, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, probably a lot more downs. The legalization in 2018 has changed the market, wiped out a lot of businesses. It's torn apart a lot of people's lives. It's been really difficult to operate. We've lost advertisers in the magazine. We had to wait a whole year to be able to even try to get licensed in the city of Los Angeles. So we had to shut down business for a whole year, which is a large part of what our revenue stream was helping with distribution,
right.
Making products, all of that. And it just, it wiped out so many people's businesses, and it's been tragic. And we see a lot of companies that have survived, but a lot of people are having buyouts and having to partner with other companies, and then there's a lot of people just shutting down because they can't keep up. So with all the taxes and the regulation and the not just the auditing, but the compliance and the cost of the licensing, and the fact that the state's multi-taxing at every stage in the game, so it's not just one excise tax, it's 17 classes of taxes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
With all those problems now, where do you see it heading?
Oh, it seems like the pharmaceuticals industry is the only one that'll be able to survive this, and that there's probably a couple years worth of a runway for small businesses to get their brands out there and their revenue up to be valued and worthy of getting bought out by either big pharma, alcohol or tobacco, or some of the big food companies. But it's pretty much, there is in the alcohol industry, there's like the micro craft, micro brew,
right.
And I think that will exist to a certain extent for those who can cut it, but I think that that's going to be a small margin or percent. I think in 2017 we predicted that 30 to 40% of the industry was going to get wiped out by 2018. I think it's been more like 60%'s been wiped out since 2017, and now we're at a point where in what's left of that, probably only 10 or 20% are going to make it through.
Yeah, that's being optimistic.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah. There's a lot of mergers and consolidations. There's a lot of buyouts. There's, and you got to be careful where you take that money, because if that money comes with, strings attached, which it always does, it's either high interest rates or, if you fail to pay the loan off, then you either owe the investors or they can sell off your assets. And we've seen that happen with events and companies and trademarks. And so it's like all of that is just, it's, I don't know, as my attorney says, there's going to be a lot of cannabis litigation blowing up in the next couple of years.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of businesses and business partnerships fall apart too. It's like with all of the high costs of funding and needing to be able to pay for all of the expenses to even stay in business, people are paying for for properties and leases and rental locations and some in some cases mortgages for on empty properties that they can't even license because they're either just waiting for approval, waiting for licensing, and whether they're in the tenant improvement process phase or they're trying to make a building compliant or they're just waiting for the opportunity for retail or something like that in LA. People have been spending anywhere from 10 to 50 grand a month for a year plus,
yeah.
and for a maybe, you know? And it's like, not everybody has that kind of deep pockets to operate, but there's not a lot of sympathy from regulators because they're like, oh, it's cannabis, you should be able to pay for it. And it's like, well, that's not what everybody got into the business for. Like, you know, not everybody wants to just sell off all of their assets and make money and only be backed by investors that are going to be sharks. Like, some people got into this because they really care about the products and the medicine. And so we're hoping that we can help see some businesses through to that shining light at the end of the tunnel. But it seems pretty inevitable that there's like a 3 to 4 year runway, and then a lot of we're already seeing the biggest cannabis companies and edible brands being consolidated and bought up by Canadian companies that have gone public and have all these funds for acquisition and are buying their companies and shares. And so it's like, it's only a matter of time. And I mean, we're just seeing it left and right where there's plenty of opportunity for people to come in and go, you know, penny stock public on the Canadian exchange and do like a pump and dump type thing. But it's like, are you going to take everything in shares? Like, what is that worth if it doesn't go good, you know? What's the lockup on that? And like, if you're not knowledgeable with the stock market, then is it worth that? Is it worth all of those auditing? Is it worth having a parent company of a parent company run your company, you know?
No. That's way complicated.
So it's a big ass headache.
Yeah. And so I met you at an event.
Where did we meet?
Hawaii, in Oahu.
Is that where we originally met?
Yeah.
I feel like
and,
I know. You know where I think you originally came. You came through the website. You originally found edibleslist.com and was looking for products back in like 2016, 2015.
But then I met you in 2017 personally at that event in Honolulu. That's where we met face to face, but then me and you have done other events together too.
Yeah.
So that's what I was kind of trying to touch on, is just doing the events, and that was like a golden time. That was great.
It was a different day and age before the new event laws came in. People were able to give out samples, and it was, you know, you could buy product wholesale on site and make deals on site and do cash sales. Now that you have to have a license, and it's not, I mean, there's a limit. So you can't even get more than an ounce at an event. And I mean, we're just seeing, there's Chalice Cup canceled.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Or last year. It's 2019 now, right? But 2018, Chalice Cup canceled. 420 Cannabis Cup canceled from High Times out in San Bernardino.
And those were like last minute cancellations, right?
Well, I think in both of those cases, they had failed to get the proper, whatever the city approval situation was, they failed to get the proper like city and state approval. And even if the state approved them for a license or a temp, the city was saying now we put a moratorium on it, or the county, San Bernardino County, said no cannabis, nothing, because they didn't want. And that's the law last year, was that you had to have any cannabis licensed event on state land, which meant agricultural incorporated properties, which is only fairgrounds. Which the whole reason I started doing events was to not have to go to a fairground to go to a cannabis event, and wanted to have something that was a little bit more high end and classy and fun and educational, but in indoors. You know, I have asthma and breathing problems, so like I don't want to be out in the desert for those types of events. But this NOS Center in San Bernardino and Victorville were both friendly to cannabis events, and one of the only few in the state. So that's what the state originally went with on the regulation, but then San Bernardino County put a complete moratorium on all cannabis commercial business, anything, and that included events, because they found out that one landowner owned 90% of the green zone property, and they couldn't allow that monopoly to take place. So it was going to be this giant lawsuit, so they had to like stop it and figure it out. And because it applied to not just the city at San Bernardino County, that also applied to Victorville, because Victorville's in San Bernardino County. So I think right now, Santa Rosa County Fairgrounds are the friendly ones, as well as Cow Palace, San Francisco.
Okay.
Those you can get event approvals from the city and their state, and there's no issue. But 2019, a bill AB 2020 went into place where as long as you get the city approval and the venue approval, your state license will allow you to do it at any private venue. But good luck getting that in Los Angeles right now because we're all tied up in phase 2 and phase 3 licensing. So there's no chance they're going to be dealing with event permits right now. They haven't even figured out their chain of supply. So
things are looking grim.
I mean, it's pretty abysmal. It's hard to stay positive. And it's hard to stick it through because it's like, I mean, you have to, it's not just meeting all the regulations, like you have to get your building ready, and not everybody got, at this point, only 40 licenses have been issued for manufacturing, distribution, or cultivation for operating approval in Los Angeles. So if you take those 40 out of the 600 that submitted, that says that 540
60
yeah, sorry, I'm from Hawaii.
Or what? Where are those people going then?
Well, they're going through, I don't know, they're either, I guess at the end they decided that you didn't have to have a location to submit. So like half of the people that submitted didn't have locations. Now they're trying to go get locations.
Okay.
And then get their zoning maps and then their premise diagrams and tenant improvements. And so the state's automatically renewing temporary licenses to the end of the year, I think. And I think that's a potential possibility. But right now they've already, anybody that had a temporary license from the state, they automatically renewed it for like another 6 months. So we'll see. I don't know. No other state. I think if you ask me why I think why it's so jacked up right now is there was no grace period or leeway. So like all of the other states, Oregon, Nevada, Colorado, Washington, they all had 6 months to a year or 2 or 3 before they actually enacted recreational cannabis use and sales. And so that gave them 6 months to a year to figure out, okay, what does the exact labeling need to say? What is the exact regulation on that? Is that going to be, a 5 to 10% margin of error, or is it a 20% margin of error like Colorado was? And what are the limitations on everything and the packaging, and let's really think about if we're going to do double mylar by regulation, that never biodegrades. So it's like, is there any other way other than putting more plastic and more non-biodegradable material out into the earth, into the plastic, into this, planet? What's the point? Like it's so counterintuitive and counterproductive to the whole meaning of what the cannabis plant is, which is supposed to be a healing herb. It's a sacred herb in Chinese medicine.
Right.
And so, I think other states had more time to figure it out. They had a little bit of a leeway on figuring out what that grace period was, on getting their staff and everybody educated on the taxation structure and what that track and trace system looked like and how it was supposed to operate. I think only people who have come in from other states or are operating in cities that were friendly and easier to get licenses, like in San Francisco, if they were existing, they were able to be in operation day 1, January 1st, 2018. San Diego too. They had their shit together and their ducks in a row. As 75% of the cities have banned any kind of commercial operations in California, and it's the biggest state in the nation. I mean, it's insanity. And meanwhile you have Los Angeles teachers striking, and it's like, couldn't we just take care of all of the infrastructure and the schools and the homeless problem with the taxation if we could get it right? And obviously the regulators say, oh, we have to take it slow because we have to get it right. But it's like, do we really think we're going to do one better than everyone else? I mean, like Oakland's done a successful social equity program. Other cities have accomplished the social equity program. How are we so far behind with all the resources that we have available? But then they say that they're short-staffed and under-resourced, and they have a very lengthy hiring process through city council, city hall committees, and so I mean, a lot of it comes down to the politics and the bureaucracy that goes behind having a the regulatory agency that's never existed before be set up, and then they have to create, I mean, I guess they create their own IT infrastructure. So in addition to the state system that had to be created, the city's got to have its own portal for submission for all the licenses. And what's confusing to me is that there's no cohesion between the agencies. So if you're a manufacturer, you're dealing with the Department of Health. But if you're a cultivator, you're dealing with the Department of Agriculture. If you're distribution, then it's the Bureau of Cannabis Control. Shouldn't it be like one agency?
Right. It would be easier if it was all under one roof and they just.
But I mean, like, you know, I don't make the rules. We just follow them.
Yeah, definitely. Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it's confusing because it's like people who are doing CBD products, we don't have any idea what the clarification is on that, if that's really legal or not, if you just don't have therapeutic claims on it, is it then okay if you just call it hemp extract?
What about with the hemp
cannabinoids,
thing?
You call it full spectrum cannabinoids instead of cannabidiol or CBD. And then, but who owns the rights on that? The U.S. government.
Yeah, so there you go.
But the patent's coming up for expiration. That's why I think that if any reason at all that it gets rescheduled, it's because the patent's coming up for expiration, and then Epidiolex already had its runway. So and GW Pharma already fast tracked that through. So now that particular drug's been descheduled to a Schedule 5. Then everybody else can start making their knockoff drug once they've already got it into the hands of medical states.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big money game right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the future. I think there's a number of different companies that are already producing not just hemp seed oil products that contain trace amounts of cannabinoids, but they're also doing like cosmetics, and L'Oreal has a brand called Origins, which is a CBD face mask at Sephora. Sephora has this whole new section now of makeup that's all hemp-based products. Some of it hemp seed oil-based, but also a bunch of like stuff that says CBD on it. They got CBD mascara now. They got CBD face mask. So it's like it's going to become the norm with everything everywhere. I think the FDA is going to go after those types of companies. It'll be whack-a-mole. You know, it'll be the ones that make claims or have no CBD in it.
Right.
But I don't think we're far from having edibles be regulated by the FDA. Like, I think that manufacturing, even though in our states we have the Department of Health, and in other states there are different agencies regulating commercial kitchens and manufacturing facilities and extraction labs and things like that, I don't think it's far from like the future. If it does get descheduled, there's a real good chance that it ends up being an FDA regulated facility type thing. So and then that's where, like, if you didn't have HIPAA filters before, you're gonna have to have that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, like, I started the magazine in 2013, right when Washington and Colorado went legal and started enacting it, and I went through it with them because they couldn't advertise because they were not in production, because they had their packaging regulations changed, so they had to throw out $100,000 worth of packaging that they just bought, or they changed the labeling requirements on the actual score and denomination of the actual candies or products, and so they had to destroy a bunch of product. It's like, how you just lose money for years until you're able to go online. Then we watched that happen in Oregon too. And then, I mean, what Oregon did different was they didn't limit the market. They opened up the market, so it's very competitive. There's no need for a black market for cannabis up there because it's open amount of licenses, but there's high competition.
Right.
So it's hard to make real money there, but it's also easy to get licensed there. So it's more of a free market. And then, but here in California, we're not quite there yet. And then, I mean, it's at the end of the day, you're paying like $30 for a 100 milligram edible plus tax out the door, because then about half of all of that is taxes, because you had your manufacturing tax, your distribution tax, your cultivation tax, your testing tax, your city tax, your county tax, your excise tax, your sales tax, and then sales tax for your district, city, county too.
And that edible used to cost
$6.
Yeah. And now you're looking at
$6.
$40.
They're just driving the black market, and until the regulators realize that, then and unfortunately it seems like a lot of the resources are going to enforcing fines and regulations on the licensed businesses that have like bootstrapped it to get licensed,
right.
you know? And so I've heard stories and seen it where licensees like have a dispensary, and your visitor comes in without the badge on, and they have to wear a lanyard that says visitor badge, but the BCC happened to log in right at that time and see that these visitors were not wearing badges, because everybody's got to wear one, whether you're an employee or a visitor or whatever you're doing. You have to have identification so that they could see on the camera that you're supposed to be there, and that you're logged into their system via like your whole like life identity biometrics. and so they got fined $5,000 because it was like $2,500 a person for this violation, even though it was like bro's wife of the owner.
Wow.
Yeah, so they both city and state have the ability to log into your system. You're required to give them access to your security system, so they can log in and use all your security against you, and make sure that you're complying with the law. And I mean, like at the point where it's like you got licensed, why would you have no reason not to cooperate unless the black market is a better opportunity, you know? And in some cases, and I know we've seen it, it's just driving the black market. Where there's a demand and they're creating that demand, they're just driving people to obtain on the black market. I mean, we know people who are veterans, handicapped. There's no more compassion laws. So with the getting rid of Prop 215 and SB 420, we lost the ability to be able to donate to veterans or
people
homeless
who are
sick, who have cancer, that can't afford it and need the subsidy on the medicine. We can't just give it away to them anymore. And so now, like, I know some people working on trying to help pass some bills so that we have compassion built into the system, because it's like it shouldn't all be about profit, you know?
No, that's not what it was about. Not the whole medical side of it. Yeah, the whole 215 was different.
It could be a little depressing.
Yeah. Try not to think about it, but it's like it's life.
Well, in Washington now, what you see is there's no 6 years after legalization, all the brands that were medical prior are gone, all of them. You don't have a single brand that was in operation in 2011 and 12 that's in operation today there. It's all brand new brands, complete. The billionaire market took over. Washington has more billionaires per capita than any other state. Yeah.
Wow.
I it's primarily because they don't charge income tax there. And then if you live close to Oregon and you go across the line and there's no sales tax.
Yeah. All works together. And then you go to California, you get all the tax.
Yeah, you get tax. Yes. Yeah. I mean, we've seen so many people leave for Nevada, leave for Oregon, take jobs in Washington. We've seen all of that. And I think California is going to be running behind, because it's like once New York actually passes their legalization, then it's no longer a novelty, and we're not taking advantage of the traffic, the tourism. I mean, those are the people who are really going to be the largest new buying demographic to cannabis retail, you know,
Right.
The licensed adult retail use stores. And if New York becomes that and we start losing the cannabis tourism to other states, then we're not going to be reaping the tax benefits, because, you know, the local base here that's been operating in the black or gray market for 30 to 60 years isn't going to stop operating.
Yeah.
No, there's no physical way in the world that anybody could police all of Murder Mountain. There's just no way. No fucking way. And it is what it is. Humboldt Mountain, Mendocino County, all of that, it's too big for anybody to stop any illegal operations. So whatever was going back east is gonna keep going back east.
Yeah.
And everything in between. I mean, but then what's like amazing is like we look at Oklahoma and they made medical pass and they've issued over 2,000 licenses and people are in operation with dispensaries. They don't have any real edibles or anything because nobody has, I guess, the experience and stuff. And their labeling requirements aren't quite there yet, but they're I mean, it makes it just basically makes it an open free market right now and an opportunity where anybody can go there as long as you have someone with residency of 75% of the board or whatever and get licensed as a processor, cultivator, or a retail.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's only $2,500 to apply. You just have to have a business or entity, or you could put it in a person's name, but less liability under an entity. And it's, I mean, shit, Los Angeles for one, it was like $13,000 to apply, and then the states, the fees. It's just, it keeps adding up. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, almost weekly new fees, right?
Should have bought a boat.
Yeah.
Should have bought a boat and just dumped it into that money pit.
Yeah. That would be funner.
And just sit on the Delta all day. Yeah. So it's been a fun journey. We hope to see people in operation, but like, I mean, out of 600 Los Angeles submissions to phase 2, I don't even know 10 that are operating. There are a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, and then there's the people who do know what they're doing that are taking it extra slow because they're fairly certain more things are going to change, you know. And then we've lost you. I mean, think about it. With the black market, you've got thousands of dispensaries, friends, licenses, whatever that you're gonna sell to, and then you go from that to 180 legal shops in LA. And you think that the volume is supposed to be higher, but in actuality, these shops are really not even breaking even at the end of the day.
Right, they're not.
So, and then you talk about 280E, and it's like, fuck, if whatever profit you did have, you can't write anything off against it for the IRS, and that's how they got Al Capone. So it's like you don't want to mess with the tax man, but
No.
so all your profits are more than half. It's more than half the tax over everything. So it's like, is it worth it at the end of the day? I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of people try to bail out. Anybody that I know with a license is trying to sell it, either get more investment or bring other brands in it because it can't operate. Anybody I know that even has a license can't even operate because the cost to operate is too high to even get. I mean, the testing used to be like a couple $100. Now it's like $1,000 a test plus 15% tax. So like that means each batch that you make of whatever you make has to be large enough and big enough that it makes sense for the cost to be $1,150 a test.
So and that's like each batch means out of one whatever.
So yeah, like
whatever you're using.
Say it's 10,000 vape carts. Say it's 3,000 chocolates. Whatever it ends up being, you know,
right.
And then say that test not clean for pesticides or heavy metals. Then that whole batch is destroyed.
They destroy it right there once they test it? Or
Well, you're supposed to destroy it.
They give it to you to destroy it.
Well, and then you have to pay a cannabis waste company to come and destroy it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
For a small fee. For a small fee, they'll come and throw your shit away.
But not just, they put chemicals and then they take it. So you got to put weird chemicals to destroy your hazardous cannabis waste because the cities in the state is treating cannabis as a hazardous chemical. A hazardous thing, and so then there's this whole other level of hazardous product certification that you have to have on top of everything. In addition to, like, if you're a distributor, you have to get like a weigh scale permit, and if you're in distribution, you have to get a motor carrier's permit, which means you have to have a Class A driver who's a federally employed driver who doesn't smoke. He can't smoke.
Well,
You gotta piss clean.
Yeah, most people in this industry don't smoke. We're just
That's funny. It's true.
Yeah.
The majority of this industry, and that always bothers me when people. It's always a red flag to me when someone's like, I don't smoke," or "Maybe I'll smoke later in my life."
Yeah,
But
no.
that's a red flag for sure. Like, why not? Why not? I don't understand. But there are some people I've met that have negative reactions with like smoking weed. There is like a cannabis like hyperemesis thing that
That's
happens.
like a
It's
like
like
you're
throw
allergic
it.
to
Yeah,
it almost?
you become allergic to cannabis and you throw up, or you can't smoke it, or you get rashes. And I've known a couple of people that have gotten that, but most of that is from pesticides because you're smoking glyphosate and other heavy metals and contaminants. Eagle 20 is a neurotoxin and can cause paralysis upon smoking. So if there's any of that left over in your weed and you're smoking it, or you put that into a vape cart and you're hitting it, you can really die. And so the parts of cannabis that are dangerous are not the cannabis
The plant
itself.
yeah.
And it's the pesticides and the heavy metals, so that's why there's all the testing and everything. But like, I mean, now we're finding that like vape carts that come from China aren't even testing clean. So you get a clean distillate that's category 3 clean, pesticide free, heavy metal free, and then it goes into a cartridge, and then the test not clean because you have the solvents from the terpenes, or if it was butane or ethanol, now it's leaching out from the glass and the metal, so it's testing positive for lead and nickel and all this other stuff. It's like, and then you really got to know where you're sourcing all of that from.
Right.
It's like, it's such a pain. But and the compliance is worth it, but it's like that doesn't stop the black market. I mean, like a brass knuckles cartridge in a dispensary is like $110, isn't it? And then, but you can get like a full gram cartridge on the black market for like $30 or something like that, right?
Or less. Yeah, I've seen.
But
yeah.
you don't know. I mean, you don't know where it came from, what's in it.
It's just in the same packaging.
Yeah.
Same cartridge, same packaging, but you don't know what's in it.
There's definitely not like a certificate of analysis that came with it that tells you if it's clean or dirty or not. But so like that's why like I don't vape. I don't trust vape carts.
No,
I don't trust the atomizers from China. I don't trust. And then also you're putting a lot of lipids into the lungs, so that if you have any kind of breathing issues and you vape a lot, you're gonna exacerbate bronchitis, bronchial mucus, and you can develop a pneumonia from that as a result of exacerbated bronchitis.
Wow.
So it's like and I know people have gotten it. So it's like there is a story of a girl that died from vaping all day too, where she got a pneumonia and died from the pneumonia. But
from a THC vape cartridge?
Yeah.
But it wasn't from the actual plant. It's from what's in the cartridge.
It's the heavy. Well, also if the PG, if they're using propylene glycol, which is petroleum oil, or a VG, that's not good for your lungs. It'll cause popcorn lungs. It'll create upper respiratory issues. So it's why I'm very careful about how often I dab, what I dab, how I dab, and if I even vape. I don't really like to vape. There's only a few vape carts I've ever really liked, and since legalization, it's too expensive to even try new carts.
True.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
What's going on in your city?
Oh,
What's
God.
up with Paso? What are they doing up there?
Nothing. There's a few delivery services going right now. You see the little white vans driving around, but I don't know. I don't see anybody really legit working. I don't know of anybody that's really licensed. From what I heard, I think there's 3. We have 3 licenses, and that's it. There's storefronts, and 2 of those storefronts are allowed to deliver. Then the other delivery services that are out, they're operating under emergency license or something, emergency temporary licenses, or I don't know.
And how did those people get licensed? Did they submit conditional use plans, or did they like try to sue in order to get it?
The conditional use, yeah. So that's what they did, and people, even the people that are in that process and have invested, like I said, over $100,000 or something, they can't operate.
But
still
then,
can't legally operate.
Are they on city or county land? So, but then they had to present it to the county in order to do. So you would have to find county commercial office space in order to try to submit, and at that they might not even accept it.
No. And good luck trying to find somewhere a landowner to rent to you for a cannabis business.
Oh yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
They're trying to find $20,000 a day to the landlords of unlicensed businesses, and so they won't. If you have to rent the spot to even get licensed, they can't. It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
You can't rent the spot if they don't know if you're gonna get licensed. So then you have to ask. You have to find a cool enough landlord that will give you an out clause that says if you can't get licensed in a certain amount of time, they'll let you out of the lease. Then you're still paying money on that rent. You know.
Yeah, it's a never-ending money game trying to get licensed and trying to just be involved with it. The black market's just going to thrive. They're pushing more people towards the black market. Like you said, if someone is going to go, especially where I live, the closest dispensary is going to be 45 minutes away. So you're going to drive over there, or if you get them to deliver, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. And if you're going to say, okay, I want a Brass Knuckles cartridge, oh, it's $100, but I can go down the street and buy one for $40, $30. What's the point? You know, yeah, it's bad for you. It's gonna make you sick, but you know, Joe Blow over here that only makes $12 an hour, he's not really worried about that. He just knows he has to go to work and he's trying to get high at work and he wants to hit his cartridge. And that's where you're gonna see that in a few years. Everybody with fucked up lungs and health problems. And like I said, it's not even the plant. It's all this bullshit that we're adding to it.
Well, in Washington, the same thing happened when legalization took place. The prices were so high and the taxes were so ridiculous that like anybody was just growing it in their house, and then they had to make it illegal to grow in order to fix that, because they ended up making it. But I mean, there were people selling ounces on Craigslist for $25.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy. Misty, she's feeling good. She loves her CBD oil. It's dinner time. You gotta feed her.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, B.
Yeah. Oh, Misty.